Yo, it's Mel from Rap Rankings. To hear the full episode this clip comes from and all the other episodes, stop by raprankings.com or search Rap Rankings on your favorite podcast platform. Track 2, Evil Deeds, produced by Dr. Dre. I was on the fence with this one, bro, but 6+.
I was on the fence with this one as well. And Moulz Mel connects, 6+.
Wow. Okay. 2 connections in a row.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I mean, this obviously I have a little more to say about. I don't love the flow that M goes for on this one, especially on the first verse. His flow's a little bit better for me in the second verse. But, like, it's clear already early on here, as far as technique goes, this is a far cry from those first 2 albums. And as far as, like, mic presence, the passion, conviction, hunger in the delivery, this is a far cry from Eminem Show, 8 Mile soundtrack, the shady Invasion mixtape stuff, you know, all those beef records with Murder Inc. and Benzino and them. You know, I also find this chorus to be a bit irritating, and the delivery of some of the lines to be like a reach, you know, in just the kind of the cramming of certain words into these lines with the flow that he's going with. And, like, listen, take all of this with a grain of salt, because I enjoy the Triumph stuff, or as, you know, the cynics have labeled it, the voice. We know what the real voice is. But, you know, I don't mind Eminem when he's doing silly shit, as you'll hear. This is, like, kind of silly, but not all the way. And it's not really serious either. It just kind of falls in the middle there for me.
I need to articulate this. This is the point of the season. I felt this way when I first heard this album, 2011. It doesn't kick off like the previous Eminem albums where, like, it feels like he wants to make a statement and he doesn't have that accessible to him at the moment. Like, you can talk about this, like, sort of strange flow and cadence he's using, but he's trying to bring us back into the lore, and it just feels like
head popped off,
right,
getting dropped off.
It's like he's feeling around for something to catch, and it doesn't. It's like, all right, let's try this. Like, this is kind of something, like, head popped off, you know, that front porch, and I'm like, just, oh, so you're gonna repeat things? It's like, bro, it's like, you know, if you're not ready, listen, you've proven yourself enough where I would rather you just take more time, you know? Like, instead of coming in here with
and it's not a matter of, oh, you just want him to do the same old thing, because we've talked about this before. Eminem Show, that album, the one that came before this, very much a maturation point for Eminem, moving away from a lot of the shady aspects and moving more into these kind of serious records that you'll get on this album as well at certain points. But, like, you know, it was a bit of a change more so between Marshall Mathers LP and Eminem Show in his demeanor and presentation than it is from that album, Eminem Show, that is, to this one. It's just that everything kind of just feels like a little undercooked here.
I feel like he wants to drop us back off in the world of Eminem with all the lore, his mom, his kid, his family, his Kim. But at this point, with 3 albums, we kind of know the story. We know the ins and outs of this. So it's like when you're trying to, like, give us this genesis, it's like getting dropped off on somebody's porch, and then it even ends this verse kind of anticlimactically to me, because it doesn't rhyme. It's like, they didn't want me either, so they left me on someone else's lawn. I'm like, okay. Like, that's what, okay. It feels like you're still, like, trying to find something to settle into. It's like, okay, that's the direction. Let's go with that. This is funny to me.
Well,
so
you're going to see, too, like, structurally, more, or not really, like, structurally, but, like, sequence-wise, you'll see what he's doing on this album in particular, because he basically, within the first like 7 to 8 tracks pretty much checks every box he's meant to check.
Right. You
And
know,
this
from the
right
humor
now,
to the story of his life.
The humor, the political stuff, the, you know, again, like the kind of diary rap, tabloidy stuff. You've got something coming up in a little bit that sounds like it's a reject from the 8 Mile soundtrack. There's a song right after this one that musically sounds more in line with what 50 Cent was making at the time than, I mean, he's going through like a checklist. Yeah. We don't have the Haley record, but that's because it's on the second half of the album.
Right. You know.
But to somewhat diminishing effect in a lot of these cases. It's like, just lose it. Yeah, it was cool. It was all right. But it was nothing compared to the previous first singles of all the other albums. Even D12 Purple Pills was a better first single.
I'm a Purple Pills mark. Okay. I think I've said it on the show.
You know, My Band was a better first single. Like, the 2 D12 albums have better first singles than Encore does. And, you know, I'm not going to sidestep this. And just because there's gems on the album doesn't mean that this album, from all, like, points of view, should be considered a disappointment. That's ultimately what I'm going to say right here and now. I consider this album to be a disappointment. And the reason it's a disappointment will get, you know, explained throughout the rest of this review. But we're just, you know, on a base level, I'm feeling like, yes, he's checking boxes. No, it's not scratching the same itch that it used to when he would check those boxes.
You know how you had me listen to Black on Both Sides finally in full before we get ready to do the New Danger?
Yes.
I had that same experience in 2011 because I had basically binged his whole catalog.
Did you so I had heard it.
You said, yeah, I listened chronologically. And so I could tell when this came on, I'm like, something's off. He's not as tapped in. And of course, we'll get into the specifics because that's just a feeling. You know, you can't, that's a vibe, as they say. I got to explain the vibe. But it's clear to me from like the intro. And this is that intro. And I'll say one good, I've always liked this beat. I don't mind the beat at all. I'm fine with the beat.
This is not one of the more offensive beats on the album. This is also, however, an album that doesn't feature a ton of beats I really like in general. Yeah. Even the songs I like have beats that I could mostly like do without for the most part.
Yeah. I think Dre gave him a beat that was, you know, fitting enough to kick off and not like that. Like it's got the energy to it. But you can tell it feels like for once Eminem doesn't know what to do with it. You know? It's why you get this first verse where we're repeating things. This is a beat
you give to a hot rapper. Like a rapper who's currently engaged. Right,
and they usually rip it up. In rapping. You know? They go crazy. And this one, it's like feels like he wasn't sure what to do.
Picture like 50 or even Banks on a beat like this at this time.
Right. You know? It just... He's doing this thing where he's repeating things, and you're not used to that because he's a maestro of the lyrical sort, and he's a technically gifted rapper. Mathers
LP is Kill You with like some of his best rapping ever,
in his entire catalog. Explosive opening, and this
what's on. I know we're saying like Eminem show's a little different. He's going for a bit of a maturation. Both stylistically,
what did he kick off with? Did he kick
and
off
in
with
his
White
content.
America?
I don't remember if it's Business or if it's White America. It's one
White
of those
America,
two.
I think. Let me see.
That's a statement record,
I typed Eminem, the Eminem. Yeah. It's a statement record, but he actually sounds invested in it. This one,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's White America. Curtains up, then White America. Record. This is...
What's track 2 on Slim Shady?
Let me see.
I think it's My Name Is, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's track 3 or 4.
Let me see. Slim Shady LP. You notice Wikipedia move like their little kind of, what is it? table of contents, I suppose, to like decide. Like it's like in a whole new place. My Name is the first track. It kicks off the album,
there
which obviously
like,
is classic.
Come on. I mean, it's a 10 to me. Free rating. Yeah. So
free rating.
You know, he's kicked off his albums previously with either some of his best songs, some of his biggest songs, or at least some of his biggest statements.
Right.
And this feels just like an album cut to open up the album with.
You know, I could see maybe a fan, maybe him, I don't know, saying like, well, you know, it's a songwriting technique. Getting dropped off. Like, yeah, I get the technique.
I don't think it makes for enjoyable listening, and I don't think that's playing to Eminem's strengths as a lyricist.
Right. Like, that's the thing. In the case of someone like Eminem, it feels like you are aimless because we know what you're capable of. If he wasn't Eminem, I'd be like, okay, somebody thought this is cute to start. Like, this is like how they're going to ease us into this album with this, you know, sing-songy sort of thing.
For Eminem, we did that Maxo Cream Pumpkin album on Rap Express. I could see him doing a flow like that, oddly enough. Like, getting dropped off.
Right. You know? Yeah, exactly.
But this is Eminem here. I mean, come on.
Right, I hear this from Eminem. I think, oh man, them drugs eating him up. You know, he can't think of anything better.
I can't in the moment, shake the fact that a guy who performs at a high level is not performing at the highest of levels that I've seen him perform at before.
Right,
and even in the maturation process of moving away from Slim Shady and going more into the kind of records he was making on the 8 Mile soundtrack and on Eminem Show, I feel like, you know, that was still him a lot more engaged in his work and craft. I mean, it's undeniable. Does anyone out there actually think Encore is better than the Eminem Show? Call in 718-635-0743. Can you make an honest, you know, good faith attempt to paint Encore as the better album than the Eminem Show?
I would love to hear somebody call in. That truly, because I want to hear their rationale.
Like, if someone said to me they like Slim Shady LP more than Marshall Mathers or vice versa, I'd be like, word. Everyone has, you know, a difference of opinion when it comes to
any of those first 3 albums. I'm like,
even
okay,
the first, if you prefer Eminem Show to the first 2, even I'll accept that as a valid opinion.
Yeah.
Is there anyone out there that can make the argument in good faith that you believe Encore is a better album than any of the first 3? Forget about the Eminem Show. Any of the first 3, you know, major label albums from him at that point.
You know what? I'll even extend the conversation. Not in a favorable way for Eminem, but like saying Encore is better than any of these first 3 would be like saying Infinite is better than any of these first 3.
I mean, listen, maybe I could see some super backpacker underground nerds being like, it was better. You know, because he wasn't being a weirdo and everything. But, you know, listen.
Yeah.
Infinite is at least like something you can write off as, you know, a young man who's yet to reach his potential and the level of success he would go on to reach, you know, making his way in the world. Like, you know, that's like Common. Can I borrow $1? Or like Mobb Deep, Juvenile Hell. Like, shit, not everybody is a perfect creation out of the box, you know?
You know?
But damn, I mean, I don't expect after 3 above average albums, one of which is a guaranteed classic already in the Rap Rankings Record Club in Marshall Mathers LP, I just don't see this album stacking up to those at all. You know, it's apparent from the very first track.
You know, and I want to say something because I brought up, like, you know, it's songwriting technique. Here's the thing, though. Eminem is not a songwriting slouch out the gate. You know the story. It's lore at this point. It's you sat down, Dre played him the beat. He's immediately, my name is. Like, he can obviously do more than rap technically. He's made pop songs, you know, prior to this point in time.
And
that's why I know this is not as sticky or as catchy as those. Front porch. Like, you know, that's not, you know.
Predominantly, everything's always predominantly white, predominantly black.
It feels like you're feeling around in the dark for something.
I do like it better than what he's doing, though, in the first
you know,
verse.
Everybody, you know, come on.
It at least feels like he's getting a little bit looser in the second verse. It's not just the repeating that he was doing before. But man, I've heard him do this kind of stuff better.
We've heard it better. Exactly.
And at some points in this review, I'll call back to that and even play some stuff to, drive my point home. But for now, all I'll say is Evil Deeds is a lousy way to open up the album and his worst song intro to date.
Just say this real quick. All this time, I thought he was saying, apparently the line is "till somebody finally took me in." And it's a consequence of the cadence because he's kind of like cramming it together. You're like, "till somebody finally took me in, my great aunt and uncle Edna and Charles, Edna and Charles, Edna and Charles." So there's Edna and Charles. I always thought it was like he was saying, "my great aunt and uncle Edmund Charles, Edmund Charles." There's some dude named Edmund Charles, but no, it's Edna and Charles. And he's doing this whole thing where, again, it feels like he's trying to feed into like he's the devil's favorite. That's Kane. They call him the devil's favorite demon or whatever.
That's a new thing. That's like when I became unlapsed. I was like, why are they calling him this now? His name's the Big Red Machine.
Big Red Machine, right. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, it feels like he's feeding into that. I think after The Rock
called him a big red retard, I think it was over for that nickname.
Yeah, that was a different time, where you could say that on network TV. Was that network TV at the time?
Yeah, that was on if I'm not mistaken, that was on SmackDown. I'm pretty sure it was on UPN.
Yeah, right. So different time. Not saying he should still be able to say that. I'm just explaining the context. But yeah, he's feeding into this idea that he's the
I'm annoyed by this chorus.
Controversial.
Because I know just what I do. It sounds like Aziz Ansari, bro.
No, not what I do. I just never had the chance to ever meet you. Like that, first of all, that it doesn't fit all the way cadence-wise, the melody.
It's awkward. It sounds awkward.
Logically, though, it doesn't make sense to me.
I just never had the chance to ever meet you.
Well, here's the thing, though. This is my hang up with that. Father, please forgive me, for I know not what I do. I just never had the chance to ever meet you. Well, here's the thing. Nobody really meets God. And number two, that's assuming he tell you if you met him. It's like, there's no you meet God and then he I think tells you how to act.
The don't even ask me how, with his actual father not being there.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, God. They're like, Mel, you don't understand basic rap concepts. I'm like, hey, listen. All right, I'm Mucinex. I'm clearing the COVID out still. Okay, yeah, okay, his real dad, sure. Well, I just think, actually,
obviously playing off of the father forgive motif, which is to God,
right? So, which is where my brain,
kind of it's a kind of don't even ask me how, but we know about you. You got some of that programming in you.
Yeah, the yo-yo-yo school where the Catholic white boys was racist. But
listen, the Catholic white boys at the yo-yo-yo school, they sounded like they fucking did this chorus. That's what it sounded. He sounded like a bit of a yo-yo-yo on this chorus.
But here's the thing, though. This was such a disappointment that even the Catholic school white boys wasn't feeling Encore.
Nah, they weren't. They were listening to fucking 50 Cent, Game, Lil Jon, fucking Pitbull. What else do they like? Fat Joe. The lean back gimmick. Nello, your cousin.
Oh my God! You just unlocked a memory. In 7th grade in Virginia, there was this white kid. He's not. I guess he was kind of a yo-yo-yo, but he was not a part of the yo-yo school. It was before the yo-yo school. This was 2004, so Lean Back was out, and I remember him he was sat in the desk in front of me, and he was rapping the song to me like it was gonna pop me. I mean, I like the song. But he was lean back, and he was leaning back, like this. He was leaning back in his desk, and the teacher was like, "Knock it off!" And he just had to freeze and stop because he was in the middle of class doing this.
Not a yo-yo-yo.
It was awkward.
Yo-yo-yo. Here's the difference between a yo-yo-yo and a white boy that likes rap.
Explain.
They don't know,
especially in Eminem review. Explain.
Yo-yo-yos don't know full verses, word for word.
Right. They're not like my boy in the 6th grade who rapped all of Killer Mike's verse to me from the whole world.
No yo-yo-yo knows a full verse by heart.
Right.
That indicates a slightly higher level of investment.
Look it up, folks. Hey, if you're new to the show, go to raprankings.com, check the glossary, find out what a yo-yo-yo is. We're explaining to you the difference because not every white boy who likes rap
that's
is
why a lot of rappers, when they perform at festivals and stuff like that, they'll just run through their hits because most people know these choruses and whatnot, and maybe they'll go through, just the first verse and go right into the chorus and boom, done.
You're not dealing with a yo when a man is like sitting right next to you, like almost like face to my ear, this white kid with like glasses and everything. Like in the middle of like music class, he's like right next to my ear saying, "Dread that nappy shit up, throw a shell in it." Okay, I'll never forget it. Like that kid can't be a yo. All right,
he's not.
He's
not. But the line is thin.
I mean, that was Andre's verse, but he knew the whole song, is what I'm saying.
My advice to any yo-yo-yos out there who are listening is start learning some verses, really put in some time to, pay respect to this culture.
I remember, listen, the two things that stood out is him saying, "Dread that nappy shit up, throw a shell in it, and catch a beat running like Randy Moss." I remember him saying those two things to me and just like being in awe. I'm like, I remember I had the thought, I'm like, does he know more rap than me? Because here's the thing, he honestly may have at that point in time, so yeah. All
this guy could have been the original Moulz.
It could have been Moulz. Okay.
But you know what happened? He got the vibe from you. He's like, this guy ain't rap. I'm just not going to spend time rapping this
so
guy
he stopped.
Anymore.
Well, here's the thing. I never like played him off like, yeah, okay, whatever, dude. Like I entertained him, but like I was the whole time like, I hope he doesn't know. It's one of those situations where it's like me as the black kid, I think he's looking to me for acceptance. Like, am I down? Am I good? Do I check out? And I'm thinking like, nigga, you know more than I do. Like, I don't, I was like, yeah, I know some rap, but just what's on the radio. I haven't gotten to this point yet. You showing me the free, you bringing the CDs to school, like, hey man, I got this Usher Confessions special edition. Like, we can talk about that. Yeah. But even the yo-yo-yos, probably even the real hip-hop head white boys weren't feeling Encore. It was just, and we're going to explain. We're going to continue to explain.
Me as a real hip-hop white boy on the bus listening, you heard my story. I knew something was off, but I just didn't give a shit. I was just like, whatever. There's other rappers.
Right. You had alternatives.
I felt like rap was in a good place and felt like the future seemed like it was going to be bright. So I was just like, man, if Eminem can't get it together, someone else can. And they will. So just like, fuck it. Like, this sucks. I hope he gets it together on the next one.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Like this reputation he's built as like, right. He's hip hop's, bastard white boy demon child. Right. And it's like this part at the end, it's like Mary had a Little Lamb, Debbie had a Satan spawn. I'm like, okay, anticlimactic again. Also, I would hope them badass kids wouldn't say that to him, but it's like, it feels like we're playing the hits. We're feeding into this stuff. It's like, right. You didn't have a conventional upbringing. Everybody thinks there's something wrong with you. Like you're crazy. You're demonic. You're Eminem.
It's not as sticky as it once was.
Right. And it's just,
it's
songwriting's not good.
We just have to see where he went wrong.
I mean, he's in the second verse where he kind of picks up a bit.
I just felt like he was actually playing around with rhyming in the second verse in a way that he's not really at all in the first, and is a little bit in the third, but it just feels like less, I don't know, ambitious than the second verse. The second verse is the best verse in the whole song to me.
Here's the thing about Eminem coming in this album. Like, you'd be mistaken to say, oh, the problem is that he's finally self-aware. He's always been self-aware. Always. Aware of who he is in hip-hop, who he is as a man, the things he's saying on record. It's what helped him make such, effective satire and amongst other things. So the problem is that he's aware that we're aware of him now. And it's like, it's the guy who's run, like he's reached the bottom of his bag of tricks.
We've almost started to reverse engineer all of the tricks to figure out how they're done.
Right.
And it's like, all right, what else you got to show us? It's like, well,
and all he has to show us is now rapping like, oh, you caught my hand at the bottom of the bag. I got no more tricks
Other
Like,
than
you know,
impressions of a dog from late night television, which I go up for, but I understand a lot of people don't like that. And I respect that they don't like it because it's stupid.
right.
And, you know, some people don't want to hear that in their rap music. And I think that's totally respectable. But, you know, it's just like, oh, shit. So all you have now are diminishing returns takes on the previous styles that we've already kind of like you've defined previously, and that we've kind of gotten our heads wrapped around already. So we kind of know what to expect out of this.
This is the album where I feel like he finally transitioned into that last relapse CD was mindset, which is where you're chasing yourself.
Underrated album, but that's for a later season.
Well, I'm just saying just like you're chasing a ghost now.
Yeah.
This is when it begins. Like in this second verse, he's acknowledging like, okay, at this point he has like a woe is me narrative. He's talking about people assuming he should shut up because he's rich. Like, you know, what do I look like? Some kind of it? Wait, don't answer that. You know, it's like he's starting to eat himself.
Yeah.
You know,
and it also
because there's nowhere else to go.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We were just talking off air about Mercedes Moné or Sasha Banks, and you know, I just watched her first match in New Japan last night, and I was telling you that I think she left WWE because there's legitimately nothing left for her to achieve there. She had done everything, including main event night of WrestleMania, now that they split that event into 2 nights. And, you know, I kind of feel that way with Eminem. Is like, he had a movie which got a big soundtrack and they were both big hits, and Lose Yourself is like maybe his biggest song ever coming off of that soundtrack. He's coming off of these hugely successful albums. He just won the beef essentially with like Murder Inc. and the Source magazine and all of that. Like, you know, 50 Cent is now, you know, this conquering upstart, and it's clear that now, you know, Eminem himself is a bit of a kingmaker and being able to break new artists, and like there's nothing left for him to achieve. He beat the game.
You know, and when you say that, I think of someone, I have to think of him, Drake. And you know what I think he's done to stave off this moment is sticking to the formula. Like, we've been talking about how Eminem is like rehashing the formula here, but the problem is
to lesser results though. It doesn't sound like, the thing about Drake is his music now could have all been on Scorpion, you know? Like,
I know what you're saying, right?
Like, it's in such a holding pattern that it's not getting better or worse. It's just like flatlined in this place where everything has sounded the same since at least 2018.
He's my dog MCU Drizzy, you know? Like he's MCU in it right now.
Other than Honestly Nevermind, which, you know, ultimately was not a big hit, so he went right back to doing what he does.
Right. But that's my point I want to make, because yeah, Eminem is sticking to the formula here, but the small deviations from it is, and like farting and puking and like really leaning into just like he's told us he was off his ass on drugs. He's goofing off. Like these aren't even like real all the way clear-minded attempts at being a recording artist. And so if you combine that with a diminishing returns formula, you're going to get a disappointment. If this was just a less good Eminem show, I don't think it would have the same reputation. But it's not just a less good Eminem show, which is what it would be if it was strictly formula.
Whatever the additions are, you know, at least in the minds of the public, a net negative.
Right.
There were no, whatever the new features were that were introduced on this build of Eminem were, you know, people wanted to revert back to the old version if possible.
Right. Can I get a rollback? You know, it auto updated in the middle of the night, and then they fucked the Eminem CPU up, and you know, or rather operating system, and you know, yeah, that's what happens. Meanwhile, Drake,
you know,
is, you know, what he is. It's like he'll try one project and he's like, oh, no, that didn't work. All right, her loss. Like, right back.
But this is the thing, right? It's like, you've got to expect at a certain point, there's a fatigue where the fans are just like, what are we continuing to buy in for?
But here's the
demands of being a recording artist on that scale. I'm not talking about like indie artists. I'm talking about like these big event level artists. Is that, an expectation from the audience is that you evolve and change to a degree over time, because that stagnancy, I don't know what it is, but like the Beatles changed a bunch, Madonna changed a bunch, Kanye was changing his whole look and feel of everything, every album cycle. We could just go to numerous examples in all different genres about, how these artists at the very highest of levels have had to change it up and tweak the formula a little bit, like, to stay relevant.
Here's the thing, and it ties into what you said earlier. The reason, because it just hit me, the reason why, you might ask yourself, it's like, okay, well, if Drake's been sick, why aren't they sick of him yet? Here's the thing. He monopolized the rap game, didn't bring anyone under him. It's like, quote, the only thing we have right now. So they're going to keep accepting it. What you said earlier, it's like, the future's bright. There are other people. Okay, well, I'll wait for him to get it together and I'll go listen to this guy in the meantime.
Right.
In 2023, we talk about this all the time. There's no one up there at those heights with him. Coming up underneath him.
There's no one that I, at this very moment, envision being on a Drake level, or Lil Wayne in 2008, or 50 Cent from like 03 to 05. Like, I don't see someone right now on that level, and everyone that's been nominated thus far to be that person has flamed out gloriously, it seems. When
or died,
or died, or died / been murdered, but right. Or been arrested or whatever have you. Like, where are we at right now? Where every potential star, they're not going to be able to just carry the weight at this point. And the longer Drake has it, the more it seems unlikely that someone else is going to take it.
And the worse off hip hop is going to be for it. Listen, I say it all the time, Drake, you my main man, but we need competition for hip hop to remain healthy. You keep holding on to this ball like this, and there's going to be nothing left when you're done. That's not how you continue this thing. Eminem could put out a disappointment, and it sucks for him because it's like people could move on and listen to someone else. But the thing is, like with Drake, he puts it out and people just have to suck it up because what else are they gonna like? Right. They're gonna be right back for the next one.
On the subject of Eminem and Encore specifically, I felt like maybe this album was in need of being reclaimed, because at the time, this was the worst Eminem album that existed. But since this album has come out, I'm not going to say all the albums he put out after this are worse. I do like Relapse a fair deal. I think that MMLP2 has a couple good tracks on it. Same for the most recent two, those Music to Be Murdered By albums. But like Recovery, oh my God, Revival, probably the worst thing he's ever made in his entire career.
Is definitely my worst Eminem album.
That's the worst Eminem. That's one of the worst hip hop albums I've ever heard. That wouldn't even be in Biggest Disappointments. That would be on like worst ever rap album season. I mean, that's
honestly worse just music.
So you're listening to something like Revival and thinking to yourself, okay, it cannot get worse than this. And also, like, was Encore really that bad? So, it was interesting this week going back, and it's like, okay, it's not as bad as Revival and Recovery and Kamikaze, but it's still not great, and it's definitely worse than everything that came before it.
Right, which ends up getting it the historical designation of a disappointment.
Yes,
It's
and the
like,
first
don't let
thing,
the new.
it was the
new
first
shit.
disappointment. It was the first,
Right.
like, wait, hold on, what? Like, Eminem dropped a dud? Is this a dud? Is anyone else hearing what I'm hearing? Does this sound dud adjacent to you? I'm not listening to that. Oh, you're not even listening? See, that was crazy too. Some people who I knew who were like live and die by the Eminem show types were just like, I'm not even listening to that. I think they jumped straight to Curtain Call and really just got like, the singles.
Wow. We don't listen to that here?
Kind of. I mean, there were just a lot of other things people were listening to at the time. I don't remember anyone going to bat for this thing at all.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have access to, the hip hop community like I would later on. I mean, I didn't hear this album until by the time I heard it, I did have access to it and I was able to look it up. It's like, oh, okay, people thought it sucked. But in 2004, only my dad,
Right.
that was the only barometer gauge, whatever, that I had, but other than myself school, too. And I was like, something's off.
I was in senior year of high school, finally back in my house after, being displaced by the house fire for many years.
Right.
So, I was back, I was with my friends, and, I got the leak of Encore before it came out, and everyone was just kind of like, I believe one person was like, can you burn me that? And that was it. Like, I didn't hear it when I was riding around in people's cars that much. One of my friends who, very well could have been on Jersey Shore. He was like a hardcore Guido type. He loved this album, but he's the only person who loved it, and he loved every like shady Aftermath release there was.
Okay. So he
just listened to Fabulous and Eminem and fucking 50, and that was really it.
Right. It's kind of hard to picture a person that would
he wasn't like debating with me about like the quality of the music. He'd just drive around to it. Nobody else that I knew was listening to this shit.
Well, right, and that's what I was gonna get at. It's like there are only certain types of listeners in my mind. There are like fucking music nerds like us, / musicians ourselves. We have history.
Then
with
there's
that.
my boy from work who just has the CD and he's like, it's Eminem, bro.
Right. It's like, I guess you would refer to it as a casual or just somebody who they see, like my dad, he would see a CD. It's like, oh, a new CD from such and such, and buy it, And then there are the people I would say under that, like they only ever hear you on the radio. And so it's like amongst every kind of listener, it wasn't hitting. The hardcore listeners weren't feeling it.
And certain people, like I was saying, like weren't even bothering to check it out because of Just Lose It.
Right.
That single had turned them off so much, they were just like, nah, I'm good on new Eminem, actually.
Right, which is why I'm like, man, what does an Encore guy look like? Because...
like a guy who's actually going to go to bat for it and be like, fuck you guys, stop speaking down on Encore, it's brilliant.
That's I guess they're either a Stan or a Guido.
Sure. Call in 718-635-0743 if you believe Encore is better than the 3 albums that came before it.
All right. Yeah, listen, this
you don't. You really don't.
Look, only other thing I really have to say about this record, like I said, the beat tries to keep me invested. There's a lot to say
about this record, right?
Well, we're setting this classic rap, setting the stage, setting the stage.
And I guess
remember that, folks, setting the stage.
There's no way to avoid that. This is a disappointment. It belongs in the season. It's kicking off the season.
This beat is my final note. This beat belongs in like a 2000s horror movie opening credit sequence, with the names popping up. It's like some sort of CGI concoction. It's like forming the names.
I feel like it needs to be like I could see in like a House of Wax remake or something.
Right.
It's got to be in a remake.
Yeah, names coming across like George Lostanzelplick or something. I just made up
that name is coming out.
George Lostanzelplick. What is? I don't even know how to spell what I just said. I think I was going George Costanza, but like low Stanzel
Paul's Lubicki style.
Yeah. Listen, shout out to
homie
George.
Listen, so much time has passed between the recording of part 1 and this review. Sami Zayn lost, y'all. It's over. The dream has died.
He was supposed to lose.
We all look towards Cody Rhodes as our savior, as our new Hogan.
Crody, turn me up, baby boy. Turn me up.
The bearer of good news.
Yeah. Good news. Okay.
Paul Bearer has been waiting for this Encore album for weeks now.
Where's my Encore? Did they die? Has anyone seen Moulz Mel around here? He probably thought we died. You know, but no, we were just near death, but we're here. He'll get Encore soon enough.
Big Sean comes down the pike. It's a replay. I
already have it. Another replay. Oh, something's really wrong. he does the thing where like he puts his face into the chute and like looks up like trying to see what's going on. Like, is there a clog? Look, man. Listen, in case no one knows, yeah, on this show, apparently Paul Bearer gets every album after we're done reviewing it. So he's been done.
There's never going to need to be another review.
You're right. You know, it's done. It's over. He gets the album. But yeah, he hasn't gotten any albums from us for a while. He's concerned. So I think he'll be happy when this one comes down, you know. Actually, it's a gift and a curse. He's going to start getting albums again because I don't think he knows what seasons were. So he didn't see the trailer. Right. But he's just going to get a stream of disappointment. What the fuck? All of these albums suck. Yeah, it's going to be. I'm noticing a pattern. Oh my god.
I think he'll correctly predict what the actual theme is by the time he gets all of them.
What kind of season was this? The fucking shitty season. He just stops checking the shoot. You know? Maybe somebody else in the afterlife. I don't picture him in hell. He's not in hell, right?
No, he's in a sorting room for Rab. You know, he's just taking the albums. He's getting the albums.
It was that theory like everybody's afterlife is different, you know. In his, he's just in some room, you know.
I picture, it's like almost like an office, but there's a chute where the albums come out of.
I'm sorry, folks. I was just interrupted by dinner roll. Had to see his bare scrotum again. Call in, folks. Should I send him to Paul Bear?
Wow.
Should I send him down the chute?
I heard.
I'm ready.
Listen, in fairness, I did hear that Captivate is going to be running a promotion advertisement for the show, and apparently they want to run with "Dicks Out for Dinner Roll" as the slogan.
I will uproot this whole show in the dead of night and not even tell you and move it to some other hosting platform. Okay. I will take this whole thing off Captivate. If they ever
were thinking of actually putting it, like on a lot of signage and in, side of the subway cars in New York and like, maybe some trains and buses and things like that as well.
Y'all don't understand. Y'all don't know what it's like to just be subjected to scrotum for no reason. Just out of nowhere. Just,
Look, I'd tell him. How's it hanging?
Do you really want to know? Because I can tell you.
I don't want to know.
All right.
It's a figure of speech.
All right. Jesus Christ.
I guess when it comes to dinner roll, it's never enough.
Ooh, you're right. I'll hit the thing. But you're so right. There's no bottom. This guy. All right, let's go to the next track.
I mean, the listeners have literally heard Jesse's piss stream before.
We've farted into the mic in previous Eminem.
So did Eminem in this album, so I don't want to hear it.
We do it for Eminem when we do it. I won't be doing it tonight because my body is
got
currently...
us covered this time.
Yeah, he's got us plenty covered. He's gonna be giving you all kind of stuff, farts, puke, all of it. So yeah, we can go to the next track. What is this? Oh, jeez. Okay, I'll just say it because it's at the bottom. I guess Eminem tried to spice up his songwriting with this final hook when he just said, instead of, he had been going "meet you," but this time he was like "meet you." So like that didn't help Eminem. Okay, Marshall, I'm sorry, it didn't help. All right, let's
other
go.
than like verse 2 and the beat, there's nothing going on here for me.
All right,
so we can move on.
Let's do it.
Yo, it's Mel from Rap Rankings. To hear the full episode this clip comes from and all the other episodes, stop by raprankings.com or search Rap Rankings on your favorite podcast platform.